Why is the sky blue in the daytime? Was a question I asked someone. The response I had received: the sky is blue during a phenomenon called Rayleigh scattering that has to do with the spectrum of electromagnetic radiation. However, let's examine the claim. According to hyperphysics, the blue the blue sky is caused by the blue color of the sky is caused by the scattering of sunlight off the molecules of the atmosphere. This scattering, called Rayleigh scattering, is more effective at short wavelengths, the blue end of the visible spectrum. Therefore, the light is scattered down to the earth at a large angle with respect to the direction the sun's light is predominantly in the blue end of the spectrum. And for anyone who would like to pause the video and take a look at the equation that was presented, feel free to do so. I will just skip ahead a little bit. And then the Rayleigh scattering refers to the scattering of light off the molecules of the air and can be extended to scattering from particles up to about a tenth of the wavelength of the light. It is Rayleigh scattering off the molecules of the air which gives us the blue sky. Lord Rayleigh calculated the scattered intensity from dipole scatterers much smaller than the wavelength to be, and then here's a mathematical equation for anyone to look at. Feel free to pause. Rayleigh scattering can be considered to be elastic scattering since the photon energies of the scattered photons is not changed. Scattering in which the scattered photons have either a higher or lower photon energy is called Raman scattering. Usually this type of scattering involves exciting some vibrational mode of the molecules, giving a lower scattered photon energy, or scattering off of an excited vibrational state of a molecule, which adds its vibrational energy to the incident photon. And then I continue to write, however, where in reality does any of this make sense? Are there any practical hands-on experiments that can be conducted that can recreate this phenomena? No. Is this theory standing based on the presupposition that the sun is 93 million miles away? Yes. Who was Lord Rayleigh? Lord Rayleigh, who won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1904, he was born in 1842 in United Kingdom. His prize motivation was for his investigations on the densities of the most important gases and for his discovery of argon in connection with these studies. His affiliation with the time of the award was the Royal Institution of Great Britain. And his work, the air around us consists of several different gases, mostly nitrogen gas and oxygen. Lord Rayleigh developed methods for studying the physical properties of gases in the atmosphere. When he compared nitrogen extracted from the air with nitrogen extracted from the chemical compounds, he found that nitrogen from the air was heavier. He concluded that the air must contain another, previously unknown substance. In 1894, he, along with William Ramsay, succeeded in extracting the previously unknown element, argon, in pure form and analyzing its properties. And then below, I'll skip ahead a little bit, that the Rayleigh scattering law, which evolved from his theory, since become a classic in the study of all kinds of wave propagation. Rayleigh's one excursion into academic life came in the period 1879 to 84, when he agreed to serve as the second Cavendish Professor of Experimental Physics at Cambridge, in succession to James Clerk Maxwell. There, Rayleigh carried out a vigorous research program on the precision determination of electrical standards. A classical series of papers published by the Royal Society resulted from this ambitious work. After a tenure of 5 years, he returned to his laboratory, Turling Place, where he carried out practically all of his scientific investigations. And then here below on the Wikipedia, it says that his name was John William Strutt. He was third Baron Rayleigh. He was a British mathematician and physicist who made extensive contributions to science. He spent all his academic career at the University of Cambridge. Among many honors, he received a 1904 Nobel Prize in Physics, quote, for his investigations on the densities of the most important gases and for his discovery of argon in connection with these studies. He served as president of the Royal Society from 1905 to 1908. 1905 is 1 year after he received this award in 1904. And then It goes below to say that Rayleigh provided the first theoretical treatment of the elastic scattering of light by particles much smaller than the light's wavelength, a phenomenon now known as Rayleigh scattering, which notably explains why the sky is blue. He studied and described transverse surface waves and solids, now known as Rayleigh waves. He contributed extensively to fluid dynamics with concepts such as Rayleigh number, a dimensionless number associated with natural convection, Rayleigh flow, the Rayleigh-Taylor instability, and Rayleigh's criterion for the stability of the Taylor-Coulomb flow. He also formulated the circulation theory of aerodynamic lift. In optics, Rayleigh proposed a well-known criterion for angular resolution. His derivation of the Rayleigh-Jeans law for classical blackbody radiation later played an important role in the birth of quantum mechanics. See ultraviolet catastrophe. Rayleigh's textbook, The Theory of Sound, which was published in 1877, is still used today by acousticians and engineers. Acousticians, whatever. I can't say that, but he introduced the Rayleigh test for circular non-uniformity, of which the Rayleigh plot visualizes. So I must respond to this, and so below I wrote my response to the answer I had received. And the answer I had received was that the sky is blue due to the Rayleigh scattering. So here's my response. So, another member of the Royal Society exhales and crafts a most calculated sales chop in order to further explain away reality, for its principle reveals to be another insistently unfounded claim in order to uphold the heliocentric model. It is a very real appeal to authority to just take Lord Rayleigh's word for it. So instead, I suggest equipping the power of pattern recognition and examining the special interests of the psychopathic controllers of the Royal Society. This is the same Royal Society previously mentioned throughout this book, which provided funding in order to activate and push the hoaxes about ancient dinosaurs and the Bone Wars in order to falsely yet insistently prove the hypothesis of evolution during the 1800s. This is the same Royal Society who helped scare populations during a 150 plus year old spell involving spreading highly ideological lies about microbes, viruses, and contagion. This same Royal Society, who masked a realm with riddles in order to occlude access to free and ethereal sources of energy by cleverly moving the needle of public opinion through modern academia, special interest groups of intellectuals, and thus feeding the collective ego with a wizard's circle of quantum mechanics in order to emphatically describe substitutions for reality and thus hide ether itself. This very same cult presents us with repurposed tech that can be sieved through a fragmented current and distort our perceptions of reality in order to sell us artificial scarcity through profitable control frequencies. In the book Word Magic, Pao Cheng also wrote, quote, when light travels from the sun to the earth, it has to travel through the earth's atmosphere before it reaches the surface of the earth. As light travels through the atmosphere, it refracts, which is defined as of water, air, or glass, make a ray of light, change direction when it enters at an angle. This process, which is known as atmospheric refraction, causes light rays to bend and change direction. In other words, it causes light rays to angle as a verb, meaning, quote, to move or bend in an angle, which is important to know that the words angle and angel both have the prefix ang, which etymologically means to bend, close quote. And then I go on to say, it would be a fair answer to my initial question here if the hypothesis of heliocentrism be a conclusively proven and more truthful foundation for this answer regarding Rayleigh scattering to stand on. For the idea that light would scatter after traveling 93 million miles would make some hypothetical sense for it being filtered in some type of color prism before reaching the material surface of the Earth. Hypothetically, the colors would become blue, and then a sunset spectrum, if affected by the filters of our upper atmosphere and the layers from in between the sun's light and the field of observation from where we stand, the continually endless confusion and utterly unsolvable issue becomes where there simply isn't an experiment to actually replicate this phenomena by any practical means. Quantum mechanical foundations of intellectuals actively have been treating theories as universal laws by deliberate omissions of truthful experiment to be substituted for chaotically unreadable data sets. This then renders only vague similarities, which get explained away by the inevitable reality bending by more highly deceptive and obtusely mathematical sorcery. In other words, the above examples do not answer the question. For upon further analysis, a bending and scattering of light would only occur through atmospheric lensing, where it would be filtered through dust, chemtrails, smog, mirages of humidity, and so on. And since the hypothesis of heliocentrism is up for question on a chopping block, the answer to my initial question, simply asking about why the sky is blue, here inversely leans towards something we only have some agreement on. For the exact opposite of this answer holds a deeper and more accurate analysis when factoring in the naturally existent toroidal fields of electromagnetism. Though atmospheric lensing can be observed at sunset, depending upon weather conditions, elevation, and terrain, it does not answer the question, quote, why is the sky blue during the daytime? Close quote. The inconclusive idea that it's light being refracted is not empirical, and so it returns to the theoretical, where we can explore areas in which this would make more sense. In a model with a close sun, in which the sun is not a burning ball of gas, but rather something of electromagnetic nature, located only a few thousand miles above the Earth's surface, would have the sun act as a magnet similar to a Tesla coil, activating a hue of noble gases, which its entire color spectrum evident during clear weathered which has its entire color spectrum evident during clear weathered and mostly undisturbed sunsets. And then Terry R. Eicher made a video, and I will show that to you.
All I'm offering is the truth. Nothing more.
And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night."
I have come to the conclusion that daylight and sunlight are two different lights. Just as the Bible says, sunlight being the light we see when we look at the sun, a yellowish white light that is direct light, a line of sight light, the cause of shadows. The second light is daylight, which is a diffused light, a glowing, scattered light with limited range, which consists of many visible different colors. Once you get above the ozone layer, 12 to 18 miles up, the invert gases will separate according to the atomic weight. Helium, neon, and argon all rise above the ozone layer and layer out themselves. Now the diffused light, which you see here, comes from these layers of invert gases that separate in the perfect, calm, and absolute cold once high enough. And the electromagnetic field of the close passing sun is exciting these inert gases. And these gases, when excited, emit photons, which you know is light. Now, if you change the voltage, temperature, or the pressure, or its elemental neighbor, and you change the color and intensity of the diffused light. Now let's focus on electricity and argon. Argon and neon are the third and fifth most abundant element in the composition of air. There is more argon than neon, and there is more neon than ozone, methane, and carbon monoxide combined. Now, all of the colors that you see here can be produced with just neon. spectrum of light with all the noble gases. Now the shadow here is actually a convergent line, and then under that you have the edge of the electromagnetic field and then the edge of daylight. Now I also don't believe that daylight is a perfect circle surrounding the sun either. Because daylight will take the shape of the electric and magnetic fields that it is within. Now notice also here the sun disappears into the horizon, not below it. Now this is because of perspective, and the daylight eventually drowns out the sunlight. You are looking lengthwise through the layers of photons. And this explains the colors, the layers, the range, the abrupt termination lines, receding light, and so much more. All you need are noble gases and an electric current. Now, those of you who think you see a curved earth here, the curve you observe here is the light, not the earth. That's right, yes, I said the light is curved, not the earth. Now, the reason the light curves is because the field curves, which is what I'm fixing to demonstrate for you here. Now, for those of you who don't know, another property of ionized gas is a magnetic field, which means the electromagnetic field of the sun is pulling on the field of the earth as it passes. And the magnetic field also increases the brightness when interacting with the ionized field. Now, the light is transparent, but when you concentrate and intensify the discharge of photons, it becomes impossible to see through. Now, let me show you how to light up noble gases with a Tesla coil. I want you to pay attention to the colors here, especially the neon. Okay, the first and second glass tube are helium and neon, which will emit a constant sky blue light when placed within the field. Now, neon will also emit red and yellow photons as well. The sky looks blue because it is blue. The photons are a specific frequency our eyes interpret as blue. So you have helium, neon, argon, krypton, and xenon. These are the noble gases that make up 1% of the air. So as you see, the sun creates the field, and the noble gases within this field create the light. You could say the sun governs the light, in other words. Now, as you can see here, the daylight and sunrise and sunset colors of neon, which is your sky blues, your yellows, and reds. Remember that, everyone. Sky blue, yellow, and reds. Look for them the next time you watch the sunset. Now, the moon is also made up of these noble gases. As you can see right here, the moon is transparent, which explains why you can see through one side of it as you see here. Remembering what I taught you before, the electromagnetic field of the sun is pulling on the fields of the earth as it passes over the earth, just as it pulls on the magnetic field of the moon as it passes it. Just like the Earth's light is transparent, but when you concentrate and intensify the discharge of photons, it becomes impossible to see through. As you can see here, the sun on one side of the moon is intensifying the discharge of photons, but you've been taught that it's reflecting the sun's light. But it's the electromagnetic field of the sun lighting up the photons being discharged from the moon gases, making it impossible to see through like you can on the right side of it. And therefore, now you know how you get your moon phases. As you can see here, the sun is making its circuit around the right side of the moon now, and then it's eventually going to be in front of it. Now, when it's directly in front of it, that's when you have your full moon. And as it works its way around its circuit, It will be passing on the left side of the moon, which will give you your third and fourth phase of the moon. So just like the gases in the sky, or just like the gases in the moon, you can't see them until the sun intensifies them and discharges their photons. Which means Professor Armand R. Foster was right when he stated that the moon was made of plasma in 1965.
Questions related to thoughts of genius. Do you think or consider yourself to be a genius?
No. I consider myself to be an ordinary, humble person who wants to serve mankind with what man has striven for from the beginning of consciousness, with truth and understanding of the world.
Well, now, one thing, you have a theory about the moon, and we expect to be able to get observable facts about the moon fairly soon. What is your theory?
Well, it is by now rather more than a theory. 10 or 11 years ago, I stated to various scientists that the moon is not a piece of rock, but it is a plasma phenomenon, cosmic plasma, and that this fact will eventually be confirmed. I made certain predictions which were already confirmed in 1958, and the situation now is coming close to a complete confirmation.
What will be the result if you're proved to be correct in your theories?
The result will be profound and decisive, because it will give proof that a complete reinvestigation of the laws of nature is necessary. Because if the moon is a plasma, no man will ever land on it. The soft landing attempts will all fail. That means that the mass of the moon is less, far less, than is currently assumed. It's in a different state of energy, and it has far less mass. That means there is no more explanation for the tides. If the moon, for example, had only a thousandth part of its current mass, then the tides would only be 2 inches high under conventional theories instead of sometimes 14 feet. And that means that if it is proved that the moon is a plasma, then all gravitational theories are out, and a new concept of the cosmos and of its laws has to be evolved. But the moon is definitely, as I assert, a plasma, this crisis. So it comes again to the age-old concept that truth is the guidance, the hope, and the directive of the human mind, and that man must strive to understand and to know the real nature of the world.
Plasma, an ionized gas consisting of positive ions and free electrons in proportions resulting in more or less no overall electric charge. So, as you can see, like I said, the professor was right. But I think it's awful funny that 4 years later they supposedly land on the moon and all of his work just disappeared, as you can see here. As reported by ABC, in 1965, this scientist tried to turn conventional science on its head. Among R. Foster's theories was that the moon was in fact made of plasma, not rock, and that landing on it would not be possible. Mr. Foster claimed that once his profound and decisive investigations were proven, a complete reinvestigation of the laws of nature would be necessary. The ABC has been unable to confirm Mr. Foster's identity beyond the entry in the production notebook from 1965, which is what I just showed you. We have also been unable to find any documentation of his work. So, of course not, because that was 1965, 4 years before they were going to fake this moon landing. So they just made his work and him totally disappear. But back to the subject at hand. Now you know how sunlight, daylight, and the moon phases work. Everyone, thanks for watching. Have a good night, and God bless.
All I'm offering is the truth. Nothing more.
Okay, so that was Terry R. Eicher's video, and then below I provide some images, which are the important parts, which he uses glass tubes with helium, neon, and then he puts it next to a Tesla coil to show that there's an experiment to prove the case from the flat Earth model. And the sky looks blue because it is blue. The photons are a specific frequency our eyes interpret as blue. And so the conclusion to my statement in response to why is the sky blue is the Rayleigh scattering phenomena intentionally ignores and occludes any of this information in order to explain away the reality and substitute in place a false conclusion without experiment that fits perfectly with a deliberately insisted upon hypothesis in order to simulate settled science with its presupposing ideology. The sky is blue because the local sun acts as an electromagnetic coil activating the inert noble gases, charging them with energy, and causing the noble gases to emit photons, making them a clearly visible color blue within daylight, which casts no shadow whatsoever.